Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate pros. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics, in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. All right, welcome to session 37 of First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy roundtable. We're going to crack the ice tonight on a topic that we don't talk about enough in the sports performance world, in the athletic therapy world, or in the health and longevity world of athletes. So hope that you're here, hope that you're ready and buckled in. This is going to be a great topic. And Brady, really appreciate your time being on this evening. And for everybody who's here live, really appreciate you taking the time. For everybody picking this up on the podcast and YouTube channel, really appreciate this one. And I think this is going to be the start of something really big, Brady, between you and I, and bridging some gaps that I think is a glaring hole in the world of sports performance and therapy and our side of things. So before we jump into all of it, we'll just go through the ground rules here. We are being recorded for the purposes of saving the world one conversation at a time, and for going back in time and recalling all of the tidbits and anecdotes and deep and far-reaching topics that we get into this evening. As always, First Star Let's Chat's brought to you by Mobility Tape, at MT Mobility Tape on Instagram. Reach out and check out that product as well. Brady, we talked earlier today, man, and as part of coming on here and as part of potentially bridging the gap on my side of things, I'll make this public that from this point on, from the date today, which is September 6th, until the end of the month, we're going to donate 10% of the proceeds of memberships over to the Puck Support Foundation in honor of getting that thing started off and getting it off the ground. So anybody who's joining in the membership, please do so between now and the end of September, and 10% of that membership will go over to Brady and his foundation to help kickstart some things. Brady Leavold's our guest this evening. Brady has a long career in professional hockey, played hockey his whole life growing up, spent some time in the WHL, the ECHL, the AHL, he spent some time in Holland and the CHL, and has now taken on a new endeavor in life to help people away from the rink, as well as those that are still involved in the sport, with mental health and addiction. Brady Leavold. Brady, man, really appreciate you being on. I'll let you tell your story, and then we'll jump into your foundation and all the things that you're doing, and hopefully we can really generate some dialogue here with all the listeners and viewers on our side of things, to start connecting the dots and supporting you.
Yeah, no, awesome. First off, thanks. That's amazing. I love to hear that. That's awesome. We need all the support we can get, for sure, and exposure. So that's amazing. And we truly appreciate that. And to everyone joining us on Zoom, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be speaking to you guys. And also to everyone watching on my Facebook Live right now. Also too, if I think we can at the end, feel free to ask questions or whatever at the end. I don't know if that's going to be a part of it, but we'll try to focus just on the Zoom. But yeah, so my name's Brady Leavold. I'm originally from Port Coquitlam, British Columbia, which is it's about 25 kilometers from Vancouver, on the west coast of Canada. But currently I'm living in Muskoka, Ontario. It's where I live is beautiful. I'm very lucky to be here. In fact, I'm very lucky to be alive. If you guys don't know my story, it's one of, I thought I was, the only one with a story like this. And since coming out with my story, it's actually mine may be, maybe the most extreme one. But unfortunately, there's several that are similar to mine, but I'll go ahead and share mine with you tonight, and or do the best of my ability. So, where do I start? Like I said, I grew up in Port Coquitlam. I moved there when I was 11 months old from Vancouver. My dad's was a firefighter. My mom was a waitress, and my mom left when I was 5. So I still saw my mom, still whatever, but, I was with my dad majority of the time. My dad's a fantastic human being. Like I said, he's now a retired firefighter. He is a scout in the Western Hockey League. He was also involved in the Firefighters Union. A very well-respected guy, a very great guy, had an awesome upbringing. One time though, or a couple times, it's hard for me to piece it together, the exact time frame, but I believe it happened over 2 different years. I was away on a family vacation. I was sexually abused by an older guy, and that really caused me some confusion. And also with my mom leaving, it that happened around the exact same time. So like my mom left right before my 5th birthday, and then I was seeing her. But then we went away for a family reunion, and it was either that same year or that one right after, because we used to go every Thanksgiving. And whatever happened. And so I never shared that with anybody, obviously, until I was 26. But people, obviously things were changing for me, but people were looking at me. I was angry. I was lashing out. And but people were like, oh, it must be because his mom left. And I think that had a lot to do with it too. But looking back now, I know what the majority of it was that. Thankfully, though, I had hockey. Hockey was essentially my savior. It became my obsession. My obsession for hockey definitely took off right around the time my mom left, and all that stuff happened too. I grew up in Vancouver. Pavel Bure just came to Vancouver. If you guys are hockey fans at all, I was absolutely infatuated with this guy, and he just changed hockey. He made it exciting, and I wanted to be Pavel Bure. I wanted to be a professional hockey player, and when I was on the ice, nothing else mattered. And when I wasn't on the ice, I had a stick in my hands. I was in my driveway. I was in the front street. I was in my, if it was raining, I was playing mini sticks, or if I wasn't doing that, I legit was in my basement watching the hockey game, stick handling in commercials, a golf ball, whatever. That's all I wanted to do. I rollerbladed everywhere. My journals in school, it was all about being hockey. What was I going to do? I was going to go home after school and play hockey. It was my life. And it was just, it saved me because it just, but it kind of, I don't know, it was a healthy outlet, I guess. And it provided me a lot of opportunities. I think I had a lot of natural talent for it, but at the same time, I was just obsessed with it. I put in a lot of work on the things that I wanted to put work into, like stick handling and skating and stuff like that. But as I got older, my mental health issues started to take over, and the trauma that I suffered from a kid. So, as you get older and things start to become introduced to you, like drugs and alcohol, well, that to me was a game changer. And it's a pretty prevalent story, not just in sports, not just in hockey, but in the world, because people are struggling with things like this every single day, and drugs and alcohol take that pain away for a second. And at first it's fun, at least it was for me. But it took me a while to get there because, I identified as a hockey player. I didn't smoke. I drank. I think I had my first drink when I was like 7. I smoked my first joint when I was 12. But I still had these boundaries of like, okay, well, I'm not going to do this because I'm a hockey player. You know what I mean? Or I'm not going to, I'll only do this because I'm a hockey player. I only party once a month, or only get drunk once a month because, I'm a hockey player, whatever it is, and that saved me for a while. It saved me for a while. It got me through graduation. It got me through, 16, 17 years old, I moved away from home. I moved from Vancouver to Saskatchewan. I was playing in the Western Hockey League. If you guys know anything about that, it's under the Canadian Hockey League, the same as the OHL. If you're from Ontario, it'd be like the Barrie Colts or Quebec Major Junior. It's just whatever. It's the best junior league in Canada or in the world that I could possibly be playing in. I got Rookie of the Year, my team, when I was 17 years old with the Swift Current Broncos. Things looked really good on the outside. But during that first year when I was 17, I was starting to deal with a lot of different things. And it's interesting now because I think about it. This is sort of the first time that I've thought about this. And, with Swift Current being the story that it has, if you know anything about the Broncos and what they went through as far as the bus crash, and then the coach that they had in Graham James, who was sexually abusing these players that he was coaching long before that I was there, and I never had him as a coach. I had nothing to do with that. However, as a kid, I was able to see Sheldon Kennedy come out with this story, and then Theron Fleury and a few others, so as a kid, I was able to I started to identify. It's like, if that happened to a hockey player, that happened, because as a kid, I didn't say this, but as a young kid in the school ground, that sort of thing, in the dressing room or whatever, kids start to use words, homophobic slurs. Okay. And that started to confuse me because I didn't really understand it. But what I did know is that something happened to me from a guy. And so in my mind as a kid, I was like, holy shit, am I gay? Like, because this happening, but because I was never attracted to men, never have been. I'm very attracted to women. I say this all the time, and I always say there's nothing wrong with that. I have friends who are homosexual, and I support them 100%. But it was confusing for me because it was like I saw kids, and it was like using these words and how derogatory and mean. And of course, now looking back, it doesn't mean anything. But as a kid, it was like, man, if people find out that this happened to me, I'm fried. Like, my life is over. So I need to keep this bottled up, and there's no way I'm telling anybody. I tried to tell one person when I was in grade 8. I tried to tell my girlfriend that I was with for my entire high school, but I tried to tell her when I was in grade 8. I looked at her. I was like, like, Natalia, I'm gay, right? And because in my mind, I was like, I must be gay. Like, I'm not attracted to him. But, like, as a kid, because it's like, that must, I was just so confused, right? And she's like, what? And I was like, no, I'm just kidding. Like, because in my mind, it was like, well, I'm not, but it was so confusing. So then I just stuffed it down. And I remember Sheldon Kennedy coming out with the story. And then, like a little bit later, Theron Fleury came out with the story. But I think being in Swift Current, I remember being like in the dressing room in the office and seeing like the team pictures, and like he's in the picture still. And like, though he wasn't the one that, abused me, it still was like bringing things up for me. And I think that really maybe sparked it. And being away from home, it was the first time I was away from my dad. And I had this anxiety that he was going to die on he's a fireman. I had watched this movie Backdraft as a kid, and I always thought my dad was going to die. And like, I'm so glad he's retired now, because I always thought every night shift he was never going to come home. And right. So I had this anxiety, and all this stuff creeping in. So actually the team granted me like a 4 or 5 day leave my 17-year-old year, like behind the scenes. Cause I was like, fuck calling my dad, excuse my language. I was like, Dad, I'm going to kill myself. I was eating like a bottle of time. Like, my suicidal thoughts started kicking. I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm cause I had all this, I just wanted to tell somebody, but I didn't know what was going on. And I was like, I just want to kill myself. Here I am, 17 years old, living out my dream in the Western Hockey League. And all I want to do is just go like kill myself. Like, that was, so they let me go home. And whatever. And then I came back, and I didn't really play well. I still got Rookie of the Year, but I just couldn't focus on hockey. Went back for the summer, and that summer I ended up breaking up with that girl. And this is just a story of whatever, but I cheated on her. And to this day, I never cheated on anyone since, because I learned my lesson, and it just derailed my whole life. Though I was only 17 at the time, it derailed my life. I essentially lost my best friend. And I saw, I just started, she just kind of was like one of the ones that kept me on the right track, and was one of the reasons that I didn't hang out with certain people or whatever. So like, once that was gone, and when she was gone, I just sort of like fell into this thing. I went to this music festival actually when I was 18. after I graduated, and I did ecstasy for the first time. And it's crazy. I have a little bit of time. I'll just quickly tell the story. So like,
Go for it.
All these people were doing it, and it looked so fun, right? Like, but in my mind, I was like, no, I'll never do that, because like, I was drinking and stuff, but I was like, no, like drugs are not for me. I'm a hockey player. I don't do drugs, right? Little do I know that professional hockey players are doing drugs like crazy. But anyways, at this time, I didn't really realize that. I'm not saying all of them do, but there's a serious drug problem just in the world in general, and it filters into professional sports, of course. So, they were all it looked like they were just having so much fun. And I was like, wow. Like, and this guy that I grew up with, he's like, hey, do you want to do something? I'm like, I'm like, I don't know. And I knew that girl that I was with, she was with me. I said, if she finds out, she's going to be pissed, right? Like, this was like a no-go for her. So I was like, no. But I was like, maybe tomorrow. And that was like on a Friday. And so like, I remember Lone Star, the band, was supposed to like headline Saturday. And so I had planned to do ecstasy that Saturday night. Well, this girl I was with, she ends up getting really sick. And she's like, I ended up leaving early in the morning. She was sleeping in the back of the truck, and I took off. I got wasted. It's like 10:30 in the morning, still drinking away I'm still like, I was a mess already at this point. When I was drinking, I was the one shotgunning the most beers in the river, like just a disaster. Like, and so it was only a matter of time. And, and I go back to the truck, and she's like, I'm really sick. Like, we got to go. Like, I'm like, that's fine. I'm like, but I can't drive because I'm so drunk, like whatever. So quickly pack up the truck, and it's so crazy. Like, and this is a true story. And like, so we're driving, we're just about to pull out, and all of a sudden I hear knock, 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 knock on the window. That's my dog barking at the door. She's my puppy. Knock, knock, knock on the window. And I'm like, hold on one sec. I got to let her in. Otherwise she won't stop.
Yeah. She hears the knocking. No problem.
All right. Lay down. Don't knock my tea over either. Sorry, guys. One second. Oh, she's knocking everything over. So anyways, this guy knocks on the window. Who is it? Billy. Sorry. Okay, can you take that here, please? Taylor? Sorry. So this knocks on the window. And I look out the window, and literally as we're pulling out, and what does he have in his hand? This guy's got like a few caps of ecstasy in his hand. And I'm just like, what? And I remember being so wasted. So I look at her, I'm like, stop the car. So I'm just like, I get out the car, and like literally the door was like open, and he's like, I'm like, man, put that away. Cause I'm like thinking in my mind, I remember it. I was pretty drunk, but I still remember it. I was like, she sees like I'm done. Like, we're already fighting. Like, I still remember it clear today. And I feel like it was like trying to be an intervention, like something with, but like this guy just came and knocked on the window, and I was like, all right. So I just did it. I did one. And I remember hearing this myth that you got to drink all this water and blah, blah, blah. So I remember going to the cooler and grabbing like 30 bottles of water. I remember being in the truck, these bottles of water at my feet, and the girls like, what the hell is wrong with you? I remember touching, I'm like, oh, by the time I get home, I'm just like, but I'm like feeling amazing, right? Like by this time, and I'm not going to lie, like it's just part of the story. Like, it's feeling so good. I walked home, and my dad was watching family videos in the TV room when I walked in the house. I'm just like, holy shit. Like, this is, excuse my language, but this is too much. But honestly, so after that weekend, her and I went separate ways. And I went and I started doing ecstasy every single day after that day, right up until I went to training camp with Swift Current. So this is just after I got Rookie of the Year in the Western Hockey League. So I go to training camp. But in my mind, I'm still, I'm a mess about this girl because I don't know. I always just had this girl problem. For whatever reason, I always was more focused on that than anything else. And, now looking back, I could pinpoint it on a few reasons why I was like that, but, I don't have all day to decipher on that in this moment. So, but, I was in a mess. So like I went back there as an 18-year-old year. This coach is giving me every opportunity. Playing on the first line power play, penalty kill. I just got Rookie of the Year. Like, like give me an opportunity, like set me up to get drafted. It's pretty much up to me right now to be like, okay, you're not getting much more of an opportunity anywhere. It's yours if you want it. And I just couldn't get it together. I just was starting to have these suicidal thoughts again. And 7 games into the season, I only had like 1 goal. I just didn't want to play. And I just packed up all my stuff and I just drove home from Swift Current all the way to Vancouver by myself in my truck. And I remember like my best friend on the team standing, we literally lived next door to each other in billets, and he's just like, "You're ruining our dream." And certainly I did. And so I went home, and I remember telling the coach, like before I left, I was like, "Yo, you could trade me to Vancouver or Everett. Those are the only teams I'm going to go to. Other than that, I don't care if I ever play hockey again." That was my mindset. Like I was so, I don't want to say, people want to, looking back, people would have looked at me and been like, "What an ungrateful kid. Like, what an asshole." But what they didn't see was all the mental health stuff that was going on in the way that I was feeling. And it was like, hockey didn't matter, right? Like I wanted it to, but I couldn't dial it in, and I couldn't tell any, I didn't feel like I could talk to anybody. And, and when I did talk to people, it was like, yeah, I just, I knew what to say to get, so that it wouldn't affect with my coach, or, I knew if I said certain things at that time as a 17-year-old, as a minor, they're going to have to step in. And so I wouldn't say certain things in certain situations of how I was really feeling. And anyways, I just, was balling up, and I went home and I ended up skating with my old junior B team, and they were affiliated with this junior A team, and they ended up giving me some money to play for them, which is another story, education money. And I was playing on a line with Kyle Turris, who still plays in the NHL today. And I did really well. I had like 9 points in my first 3 games, and was tearing it up. But then I started hanging out with the people I was hanging out with in summer, because now I was back home, living at home, but playing for this team like 2 cities away. It was only a 20-minute drive. So, as soon as I was done from the rink, I was hanging out with people, partying, staying up all night, doing whatever. I started partying I started to use cocaine, and I was doing cocaine during periods when I was playing for the Burnaby Express. And at this one point, I actually slept through a game. And when I had like 40 people there coming to a game, I went for my pregame nap, and I just didn't wake up. And I remember waking up to like 76 missed phone calls or something like that. Like, "Where are you?" And it's like, holy, like, you know what I mean? And I just remember I took off because I knew my dad was going to be choked, I think. And then, I ended up going back. And I think the next day that the coaches and the captains from that team came over, and they had a little talk with me, they had a little intervention, and I managed to get my stuff together for a little bit. But then I got injured, and they were like, yeah, the doctors are like, "You're not going to play for the rest of the year." So they were like, "Keep coming to the rink, be a part of the team. Maybe if you rehab I cut my Achilles tendon in the dressing room after the game as a freak accident," which is crazy. After I was doing really well. And I was just so like depressed. I was like, "No, I'm not coming to the rink." Like, again, I was just like, why? Like, I don't really like coming to the rink. I like to play hockey, but like I get anxiety when I would come to the rink for sometimes. And like, I don't know, like I talked about with some people, like looking like now, I think if I got a chance to play, I would like enjoy it a lot more. But at that time, I was always in a state of fear, and whether it was to do with hockey or not, I was just a mess. And to everybody else, I just looked like a angry, ungrateful, cocky, and in some regards, maybe I was. But at the end of the day, I was just a kid, and I was struggling. And so I ended up getting traded to Everett while I was playing for Burnaby, and I got my friend to pretend to be me and talk to Kevin Constantine, who before was a Jack Adams winner, the NHL Coach of the Year. He pretended to be me and be like, "Yeah, I'm not coming, sorry." And I stayed with Burnaby, and then all that stuff happened. So then my rights actually stayed with Swift Current. So then I got kicked out of my house, actually, because I was just a disaster and whatever. I just kind of took off on a tangent. I was living with my buddy, and about mid-July, I was like, "Man, I gotta get my life together. I gotta go back and play hockey." So I called my coach in Swift Current and I said, "Listen, I made a mistake." Dean Chanel, he coaches for the Carolina Hurricanes now. And man, this guy gave me so many opportunities. Thank God for Dean Chanel. But he's like, "Yeah, you can come back to training camp, but there's no guarantees you're going to make the team." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "Perfect." So I go back and I just start fighting a lot. But I probably suffered like, I don't know. I would say at least 7 concussions that year alone. And before that, I would say I'd probably had about 4 or 5. Honestly, I've been talking with different people. I don't know what number of concussions I would have. Like, if you want to talk about like knocked unconscious concussions, I haven't had that many. But like where my brain has been rattled and I'm seeing like stars and it's foggy, I'm talking like over 50 times easy. Like easy. I'm not even questioning it. Sometimes multiple times in a game. Sometimes I'd fight 2 times, like be so concussed and then fight. I'd have a broken hand, dude, cut the cast off, like whatever. It was just, like you could see my teeth are missing. Like those are all came out. You tell me that's not a concussion when that happened. Like that's right connected to your brain. So it's just, you know what I mean? So there's that on top of that. And he brings me back. Anyways, I struggle while I'm there still, but I was doing okay. But then I started seeing this other girl, and that kind of fell through. A story for another day, and ended up seeing this other girl in Swift Current, and she ends up getting pregnant, and so then I have to go home because the season's over, and like I go home, and I'm like, I'm just like, holy shit, like, what am I going to do? But in my mind at 19, I was like, okay, this is just going to go away. She's a year younger than me. But if it doesn't, I'll figure it out. So I go home, and that girl that I was with before, that I broke up with, not the one from high school, but the one that I was dating before, that I've also known her for a long time. Well, anyways, me and her end up getting back together, and I told her about this other girl, but I didn't really tell her that she was pregnant. Anyways, shortly thereafter, she finds out that this girl was pregnant. And then about 3 weeks later, this girl was pregnant. So now I had 2 girls pregnant at 19 years old. And I was freaking out, like freaking out. My heart was telling me to do one thing, the girl I was with, and other people were telling me to do another. And I ended up making a totally wrong choice, not following my heart and not following my family's advice. But I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you exactly the choices I was given. But basically it was like one or the other. And I rolled with it. And I was so horrible to this other girl that I deserve to go to hell just for that. However, I will say quickly that this lady is because she's a woman now. She's older now. She's just a year younger than me. She's incredibly supportive of what I'm doing, and actually she always has been. And it's, I'm still to this day, I'll quickly jump off topic. I haven't met our son, who's, she's remarried and he has a dad, and she's asked me just not to, but all of that. However, so I'll get back to the story. So that was, and I kind of just, and I've tried at different times, but you'll hear in a second how messed up I really got. I haven't got to that. So there I am, and go back to Swift Current, and it's a crazy scene. It's a small town. Everyone knows that this girl's pregnant, and it's causing a lot of drama for the team. So the team's like, yeah, we got to trade you. So they trade me to the Kelowna Rockets, which was unbelievable. I got a chance to play on a line with Jamie Benn, who's playing probably right now he's the captain for the Dallas Stars. We were line mates the entire year. And other guys, Tyson Berry plays for the Maple Leafs, Tyler Myers plays for the Canucks. We had a great group, and it allowed me to go there and just totally refocus. And so now at this point, the other girl that I was with was pregnant, and she had family up in Kelowna, so that was all right. So she was up there a lot, and I got to stay with her family and be with her, which was great a lot. I enjoyed that, and I was really looking forward to being a dad. I was always looking forward to being a dad, and that to me was a troubling thing for me, because I hated myself for being such a coward, right? I can't even tell you guys how much I hate guys that do that, like my whole life. And I just, so like, still to this day, I hate on myself. And she's always been like, oh, you need to produce. I'm working on it. But at the end of the day, like, it plays on my heartstrings big time, and it affects me still every single day. And I think if anyone's ever been in a situation like that, whether you're watching on Zoom or wherever, I think you can all agree that it's just not a good feeling. And I wish I could go back and change things, but I can't. And so, anyways, I ended up having. We had our daughter the day after, or 2 days after my last game with the Kelowna Rockets regular season. So I had to go home, rush home, C-section, rush back to Kelowna, play for playoffs. Then I turned pro, like right from Kelowna. Instead of just ending the season, I ended up turning pro and going and playing in the ECHL. I was supposed to go to the American Hockey League, but I couldn't get a work visa in time, and the season was ending. And so I ended up going to Victoria. It was the only pro team in Canada that I could go to at the time. And it was close to home, so that was good. And so I took off to Victoria, and my ex and my daughter came over there for a short period of time, and I went home. And after we went home, I really got heavy into the cocaine, and because I was just a mess, still dealing with all my own personal stuff. But at this point, what was really playing on me was the decision that I made around the just not being a man about that kid. And so I was drowning myself in coke, but I ended up signing with the Tampa Bay Lightning system, and should have been training. I was about to fulfill my lifelong dream, but at this time, I wanted it to be like, I loved it, but I was such a basket case that, I wasn't going to training. I was literally staying up all night by myself doing mass amounts of cocaine. I can't even begin to tell you like the crazy stuff I was doing. And this is nothing. At this point, if you think I'm talking crazy right now, this is nothing. This is just the start. And it's horrible, but I was 21 years old and that started, and I just remember hating myself every single day, but I could, I was just doing it because it was like, being like that, being all like strung out and high and honestly like tweaked out and paranoid almost, and thinking about more stuff that was like I was in a crazy state. Like honestly, if you know anything about drugs, I got to sometimes in a pretty paranoid state, and people didn't even really know what I was doing. Right? People could see like that were close to me, but I was kind of a recluse. I wasn't showing my face really, and I think my ex knew obviously something was up, but her brothers were also using drugs around us too. And it was a really, it was a toxic situation. And so it was difficult to stop too. And like literally I didn't have to leave the house to get it. And it was bad. And so that took off, and but I wasn't liking it because I never really liked the way that stuff made me feel. Like I said, it put me into psychosis. So then anyways, I turn pro. I ended up blowing my knee out my first year pro, and I come home and I keep doing what I was doing the summer before with the cocaine and all that. But now I switch and I start using oxys for pain management for my knee and for everything else. Well, if you know anything about opiates, that is a whole nother ball game. And I did not know what was going to happen to me once I started using oxys. I knew. I saw what was happening to my ex's brothers that were using it. I knew that you become physically dependent on it. I didn't know up until this time really what it entailed. I still didn't know. And I was like, well, I can just stop. And, I didn't really know. And holy man, it is what a terrible experience. I went back to my training camp, my next year pro, and I thought, hey, this will be a good time to just stop taking these oxys. And I was taking like 12 to 15, 80 milligram oxy pills a day, which is like an insane amount. And I'm not exaggerating at all. Like it was horrible. And my body was like, yeah, no. And the team was like, yeah, no. So I went home. I was sicker than a dog. I remember going through withdrawal, and it was right around the time H1N1 was happening. So that was a perfect thing to blame it on. Yeah, I got H1N1. No one understood what it was, but here I was sick, puking, crap in my pants. It's got to be H1N1, right? It can't possibly be withdrawals. Like nobody would ever think that's what it would be, right? And so this is like 2009. And so from there, things kind of spiraled out of control. Long story short, didn't take long for me to start using heroin. And from there, you start to mix in with a different crowd. start doing other things like smoking crack and crystal meth and everything else that goes along with it. At 24 years old, I checked myself into rehab. I stayed there even longer than I should have. And I met a great guy in there, one of my best friends, Adam Braidwood, who was drafted in the first round of the CFL by the Edmonton Eskimos, played in the CFL. He's now a professional boxer, but he's also has a story of addiction in jail and stuff like that too. And I met him in there and he's like, man, you got to go back to hockey. You're going to kick yourself if you don't. So I was like 24 years old. I was about a year and a half removed from pro hockey. Hadn't really played at all. And I just, made a couple phone calls and got on a plane. Literally, my dad picked me up at the doors of the treatment center, and I got on a plane. I went to Texas and played in the Central Hockey League, which isn't around anymore, but it's like the equivalent of this ECHL kind of. And it's pretty good hockey. And I'll be honest, it was a struggle at first, obviously, just, I was away from the game for a while, but I was really happy down there. And I managed to stay clean for 7 or 8 months, but I came home and I relapsed, and a lot of stuff happened in and out of rehab a couple times until things really started getting out of control. I started to, use intravenously. And, by this time I had burned pretty much every single bridge you could imagine. I'd exhausted my family's resources financially, emotionally, and physically. Just crazy. I think my dad gave me over $100,000 one year, and in e-transfers, just to keep me out of jail, to keep my whatever. And he, every day would be a new story, and sometimes it would be legit stories that I owed a debt or I owed and I've been through some crazy things, and I'm in the middle of writing a book, and being shot at and being in these situations. I lived like thought I was the gangster for a little bit and been in that lifestyle, dealt drugs and did all that. But at 20, so whatever it was, I ended up exhausting all those resources. So I think I was 27. I ended up, finding myself on the streets of Hastings in Vancouver, which is, if you know anything about Vancouver and you know anything about Hastings, it's crazy. There's no other place like it in the world. It is, whatever it is, 10 plus blocks of just pure carnage, open drug use, open drug dealing, crime and violence, and it's insane. When you're done watching this, seriously, do yourself a favor and educate yourself on Hastings Street in Vancouver. You'll never believe that a place like that exists until you see it. And even when you see it on YouTube or see it on whatever, you see documentaries, you'll be like, what? How does this place exist? Like, how did they just let this happen? And I'll tell you, I grew up around that area, and I remember my dad taking me down, and like, we're locking the doors. Like, people are like literally like thousands of people, like homeless on the street, shooting up, smoking crack, hookers, stolen stuff out that you can buy. There's at least 200 people selling drugs on the street at all times. And the cops can't really do anything about it, because what are they going to do? Throw everybody in jail? Thousands of people. Plus there's all these old hotels from the 40s and 50s that are all run down, that are turned into these SROs that people don't know about. And they're basically like the size of the room I'm in now, like a spare bedroom with nothing else in it but a room. And they rent it out to these addicts basically, and they're just filled. And these people are just in there, and you're literally, people are dying in there every single day. I can't tell you how many overdose bodies I saw when I was down there, how many people I know have died from fentanyl. But yeah, that was, in 2013, I switched to fentanyl. I started injecting fentanyl and crystal meth like on a half an hour basis, all day, every day. That became my life. I lost contact with my kids, because I had Brooklyn and Brody at this time. And then the one son out east, for a little further east anyway. So I won't use his name, just be out of respect for him and the girl. But I had a really good relationship with my kids, Brooklyn and Brody, from the time they were, born until they were, 6 and 7. But then some stuff happened that kind of really pushed me into that life of being homeless, like really pushed my mental health. Some stuff happened with my ex and around my kids and one of my friends. And it was just a guy I played hockey with, kind of, whatever, got in the middle of my family when I thought I was getting my family back after being clean for a year. And it really set me off. It just about killed me. And honestly, it just about killed him, because on December 1st, 2013. I ended up stealing a taxi at knife point, okay, completely strung out, with the intention of going to this guy's house and murdering him. And that was where my head was at, and I just didn't care. I was hurting, and and I felt betrayed, and that's what it was. So I remember I stole a taxi. The guy didn't get hurt or anything, but I remember I took his phone and stuff just so he couldn't call. That was my thinking, so he can't call the cops or whatever. Like in my mind, I didn't have a car, so I needed to get to this guy, and I just knew that I could get a taxi and use it. And I feel horrible. Like, this guy that was in that situation now has PTSD, and like, it's just a terrible situation. And like, I can be an extremely aggressive person. I may seem calm, whatever, but you have to remember I was like a fighter. I can turn a switch on and become that monster, or I could before anyways, especially when I was strung out on drugs, especially when I was in that mindset. And it was extremely dangerous. And thank God, nobody got hurt. And thank God, I was able to come to my senses. And I ditched the cab shortly thereafter, and just ran into this local bar in my hometown. I just remember sitting there like, what the hell are you doing? Like, this is crazy. Cause like, I'd never really committed a crime or anything like that. Sure, I sold drugs a little bit here and there at this time, but never, this was like a major crime. Like, this is a robbery with a weapon, like major, like, like this was on Crime Stoppers. This was on the news. Like I remember the police were coming everywhere. I was in the bar and they're coming everywhere. And I'm just like, man, like I knew in my mind, I was like, I'm probably not going to get caught for this right now for sure. Cause like the way I was and where I was, it just kind of fucked out. But in my mind, I kind of had this feeling that it was like, okay, well, I need to kind of get caught for this, but I didn't really know how to adjust it. Cause in my mind, I was really scared to go to jail at the time. And, so whatever. So I ended up, that was in 2013. I was homeless. They were kind of looking for me for a couple of years, but I was kind of like on the run, kind of like just whatever, just doing my thing. And they were contacting my parents, and my parents were like, yeah, the cops are looking for you. Like something about that. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not true. Like, what do you mean? Like, I would never do that. And they're like, yeah, okay, you're probably right. Like, you wouldn't do that because that's not, I wouldn't, right? Like, it was totally out of my character. It was just, if you can, I can totally understand crimes of passion. You see these things of people walking in on a guy and a girl, and it just, you are hearing a story of a betrayal and a friend, like you lose it. And I'm just super grateful that it didn't turn out the way that I had once planned. So anyways, there I am, homeless on Hastings. It's 2015. And by this time I am so desperate to feed my addiction. At first I was, selling drugs on the street, at a very low level just to, support my habit and whatever. But it was pretty like unreliable, and I needed so much of it that it was like, I don't know. I started seeing people do crime, and I was like, that's a lot more lucrative. It takes a lot less time. You can go do something really quick and make like really quick money. I was like, but it's not really me, like I don't really like to do that kind of stuff. But once I went and did something once, it was like, okay, well, this is kind of easy. And I did it. And pretty soon I went on this crime spree, and I racked up like 76 charges or something. And it could have been like 1,000, could have been like 976 if they got them all. I'll be honest. Like that's what I was doing. I didn't care. I didn't care if I died. I didn't care if whatever. And so anyways, I ended up, I was pretty sneaky too. I ended up I was on the most wanted in Crime Stoppers. I got myself out on bail because the charges hadn't put through for that robbery. They got me for the taxi. I kind of just admitted to it. Then they somehow let me out, and then I ended up getting arrested again for something else because I just didn't stop. Like I needed it to feel okay. Like my addiction, I needed at least, honestly, I needed somewhere between $500 and $800 a day just to feel normal. Just to feel normal, right? With fentanyl, it doesn't have any sort of half-life. It doesn't last long, so you need to do it all the time, and it becomes very expensive. So I was just desperate, and I racked up all these charges, but I ended up using, different names. One of my best friends growing up, who I still don't talk to because of it, I used his name to get out of the cops. It was horrible. Like just because I didn't want to be sick, you know what I mean? I didn't want to go to jail and go through withdrawal. Like withdrawal is so bad, and I just wasn't ready to go through that withdrawal. And it was just, I don't want to share too much of the details about that, because like he ended up being in Hawaii and coming back and getting stopped at the airport and thrown in jail. This guy's never committed a crime in his life. His family's like so respectable, but like I knew all his information. So like, that's the kind of shit that I was pulling, excuse my language. And, just extremely desperate. So there I was. They got me finally, and I ended up serving almost 2 years in jail. And I ended up getting out, and I moved to Ontario after getting out and relapsing and dying on my mom's front lawn, and being Narcaned and brought back to life for the 10th time that was, or 9th or 10th time at that time. Like I had overdosed so many times, and luckily, thankfully, been brought back to life. So many others have not been so lucky, and some of those in the hockey community as well. And it's just tragic. And I don't know why I'm so lucky, but when I moved out to Ontario, I managed to do okay for a while. But I wasn't okay. I mean, I was a disaster inside. I was still, at this point, I had told, just before I was homeless, I think I told my dad and my mom about what happened to me as a kid. And I had told my ex-girlfriend, and I knew I had to say it. I was ready to, because I just honestly, in my mind, I didn't think I was going to live too much longer. I thought for sure I was gonna die, and I wanted to die. I'll be honest. At least I felt like I wanted to die. It was so hopeless. You know how many times I tried to get clean, and I just couldn't, and I would keep relapsing. And every time it would just keep getting worse. And I keep doing these things that was just like, wow, like who the hell are you? It's like, I tell people this, I've shared this before, and sorry if people are watching on Facebook, they hear me say this all the time. It's, the only way I can explain it is like the movie Total Recall, when that guy sits in a chair and he wakes up and he's zapped into another life. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm in jail right now. Like, what the hell is going on? Like, I was just a professional hockey player wearing like a Tampa Bay Lightning jersey, like 4 years ago. And now I'm in jail for 2 years. Like, what the hell is going on? So it was kind of crazy. But I came out to Ontario after all that stuff, and I was kind of working, doing whatever, but I was like not happy. Had not talked to really my family too much. Definitely wasn't talking to anybody in the hockey community at all. Had not been on the ice for however many years it had been. And I got back into the life now in Aurelia of selling drugs and the violence. And this was, I don't know, I moved there in 2017. The first time I was arrested in Ontario was August 29th of 2018. And I ended up getting arrested again on February 14th, 2019. And I stayed in jail until the end of November of 2019, just whatever it was, 8-10 months ago. And so when I got out, I relapsed as per usual. I got back into exactly what I was doing, because now it had been 10 years of addiction and everything else. And that's what I knew. And I'd spent a lot of time in jail, and I had all these connections from jail, and jail is just a place to go to learn more crime and more schemes and more. It's a horrible place in that regard. Like, they could do such a better job of actually, excuse me, rehabilitating, but of course they won't. However, I got out, and so I did that for a little bit. But while I was in there, I was able to meet this girl who basically saved my life. And so she ended up, pretty much getting me out of jail. And I moved up to Muskoka. Like, we talked for months while I was in there. She came to see me, and sort of just a crazy story, you know what I mean? And through a mutual friend that I just needed a phone call because in jail you can't do anything if you have money. And I had no support, no money, no nothing. I couldn't even make phone calls for like that whole year when I was in Ontario. When I was back home in BC, my mom came to see me every single week, but my dad didn't come see me for a whole year. He didn't return my calls, letters, nothing. It was a tough time. So anyways, I met this girl, but like, I got out and I was still kind of doing the same sub. And she's like, yeah, this isn't really working for me. And so I ended up taking off and going back to Aurelia because when I went to jail, that's where my life was. And I had some stuff there. I just kind of wanted to see it. And I stayed there for, I don't know what it was. I ended up staying there for a couple weeks. And I was just like, this is horrible. Like, I am not doing this. Like, in and out of, I was just doing the same stuff, staying up all night, chasing people around, being violent with people, selling drugs, doing drugs, crazy. And it was just progressively getting worse. And it was only a matter of time till I either was dead, killed somebody, did well. I spent a lot of time writing. I started writing a book called Hockey to Heroin, about my story. And that was like a positive outlet. I did a lot of Bible studies, actually. What happens to be right here. I did read the Bible and did all the Bible studies. So I was able to get and you can see my name. Not that I'm a huge Bible guy, but I am, spiritual in my own regard, but it was cool. So I just got educated. I did do I did do the most I could while I was in there. I did. I also did some bad things too, of course, but I did utilize my time. So I was able to build sort of this little foundation while I was in there, and set these sort of little mini goals. But I did get derailed when I got out originally. And so I ended up calling this girl back, and I was like, listen, I want to make a change, whatever. So I ended up coming back up here, and I ended up pretty much going through withdrawal for, I don't know, a couple weeks, and was able to get through it. And actually, but I still had no idea what I was wanting to do with my life. In my mind, I still needed to go do crime to make money. And my thinking was so skewed. I was still going to sell drugs, but not do drugs. Of course, that doesn't work. But I just had no other purpose. I had no other purpose. Was I going to do coach hockey? Sure. Yeah. Good luck, bud. What is I going to do? This was my thinking. It's what can I possibly do? I've tried working jobs, and I'll tell you what, I don't want to sound like I think I'm better than it, because this is hard for me to explain. But when you go from playing at a level of hockey like that, playing in front of sometimes 20,000 people, and you have that purpose and that drive and that adrenaline, and then it's all taken from you, for whatever the reason is, whether it's because, drugs or retirement, you had a successful career and then you retire, or whatever, or maybe one day they say, hey, you're not good enough anymore. And your dreams are crushed. And it's extremely difficult to get out of bed every day and to just go live a so-called normal life. So my thinking was I'm not going to go do that. I would rather be addicted or dead than do that. I have no purpose. But I something in me was saying to me, you just got to keep fighting. You got something more in you than this. And so actually the story is Taylor, my girlfriend, we were sitting there in the basement, and so now at this time I had, it was clean. I had stopped selling drugs. I had no money. I was used to having, even when I was homeless, I was used to having $1,000 cash in my pocket at all times, because that's, it'd be gone by the end of the day and I'd find a way to make it again. But seriously, it just, when you live that life, you just learn how to always do that. And so that was still my mentality. And, I just remember feeling useless. I'm just what the hell am I going to do? We're in the middle of nowhere. Don't have a car. Can't get anywhere. No one's going to hire me. When I got sentenced to jail in Vancouver, it was front page news of the Vancouver Sun and the Vancouver Province, which would be the Toronto Star or whatever, the New York Times in New York, the biggest papers. It was boom right there. And the quote in it was Brady Leavold, Brady would be a great guy if he could just stay off the drugs. Quote, Brady Leavold's dad. You know what I mean? It was just and I'm having to read that in jail. So there's just different things. But So I got out and I was like, said to Taylor, I'm like, I got to do something. Like, I got to make money. This is crazy. I can't be broke. Like, I need to make money. And so I was like, I got to go out. She's like, don't. Like, what do you mean you got to go out? I'm like, I got to go do something. Like, I got to go do something. I don't know what it is, but I'm going and I'll figure it out, whether it was like going, like walking for an hour and go steal a car and go just like, this was my thinking. I'm not kidding. And I'm being transparent. And you guys can judge me or think what you want, but I'm telling you, this was my thinking. So this is where was my thinking. I just didn't care. I was like, I got to do something. I was losing my mind. Because I felt useless, and I felt like, just had no direction. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll end up back in jail. And I felt by this time I'd spent 3.5 years in jail or something like that, added up all the time. And I started to feel comfortable in there. I'm almost institutionalized while I'm in there. You know what I mean? And I did all right while I was in there. Like, I worked, jail is very political. By the end of it, I'd worked my way up. I'm like running the range and involved in all the things. But I'd kind of try to do things a little different way on my range. I kind of like changed the rules and stuff. And it was okay because I was able to like fight. People couldn't really push me around because, I fight back. And like, sure, there's people in there that maybe on the street, they'll shoot me, but in there's no guns. So it was okay. Like, Like, I actually felt more comfortable in there, like, sure. Are there drugs in jail? You're damn right there are. This time while I was in Ontario, I don't think there was a day that I didn't. I'll be honest, I still smoke cannabis. That is the only thing I do. Just so I've been 7 months clean off everything before I get into the good part of my story. Sorry, I'm like really rambling. I'll wrap it up.
Man, it's important. It's important that, listen, I not to interrupt you or to cut you off, but I think it's really important that people understand the context of where all of this is coming from, and to hear the realities for you. The experiences that you've had along the way. And I want to try and tie this back to our audience as well from a therapeutic side and how we can support in this.
Yes.
But
yes.
We're all, we're all a function of our history, right? And so our history creates us, and that's who we are. And when we're in the moment, and you touched on it a couple of times, when you're in the moment, and you don't really have any way to see yourself out of that while you're in that moment. And that goes for hockey athletes as well as virtually any human being. And so the foundation that you've begun to create through all of this, I think, is something that is a game changer. It's a game changer for you. It's going to create an outlet for you. And I was on a call with you earlier today with the Puck Support Foundation to sort of navigate what's going on. And Darren McCarty is a 4-time Stanley Cup champion, is a primary ambassador of this program, and you're obviously sort of guiding and directing this thing, and still in a very like a vulnerable and lifelong battle with addiction, right? And,
of course.
And you're on the front lines with this thing, and just to create some more context for people, is the CDC, between 2017 and 2018, there was over 30,000 deaths in the U.S. That were related to synthetic opioids, right? And that's other than methadone. So you're talking about fentanyl, you're talking about all these other things that Brady's already talked about this evening. And Brady, I reached out to you at the time when the release of the Tyler Skaggs stories, a left-handed pitcher in the Angels organization who ended up overdosing and died on the road. And I think it was in Texas in last year's MLB season. And I have a bit of a baseball background and those kinds of things. And so that, along with some personal some personal things with a family member passing away from an overdose and these kinds of things. This is not just in hockey, but you bring it to such a real level in terms of the experiential side. And I've listened to your podcast. I'm starting to listen to the more regularly now. Hockey to Heroin is Brady's podcast, and I encourage anybody to listen to these, because these are powerful conversations. And I was listening to you talk to Brent Sopel, and you were telling him how proud of him you were. For what he was doing, for going through, coming to light that he's dyslexic and bringing all these other things to the forefront. And he turned around and put that right on you and told you how proud he was of you for doing what you're doing. And I'd like to take this opportunity to express the same thing. We don't know each other yet, but I think we're going to spend some time together in the future in terms of this foundation. And it takes conversations like this, man, and it takes people owning their stuff and putting it out there, because this is a step that no, we can't change our past, but you can certainly change your path and your future, and you can influence a lot of other people in a lot of positive ways and really make this something. So I'll let you kind of go off with the Puck Foundation, the Puck Support Foundation, and maybe talk to us a little bit about that. I listen, I think we're going to spend some time together, and I encourage everybody on here and everybody picking this up to listen to Brady's podcast and hear the full story. Like, this is a long history and again, a lifelong battle, but supports are necessary. And so where I hear and I see an opportunity for athletic therapy and people who are in the sports performance realm is to sort of bridge this gap. And you talk about losing identity when injury happens, prescription drugs when injury happens, losing your identity when your career ends, and not necessarily being in the pension party with the 10-year vets who have access to all the resources. You know, there's thousands of hockey players out there in the junior ranks that aren't going to make it. And then when they lose that, they're losing a part of who they are. And so I think this is where your foundation kicks in. You know, you can give it the details on that, but I think there's a massive role for athletic therapists and people in this realm to get involved with projects like this and a foundation like this with somebody like you who's living it on a day-to-day. And we provide support on a regular basis to athletes in the moment and some of us after, but I think there is a big gap. And I just, in hearing your story and talking to you and reading the story on Sportsnet and then reaching out and connecting, I just think that this is far too important for all of us not to have some sort of contribution to help with this in some form, in some way. This touches everybody on different levels. So Puck Support Foundation, Brady, maybe just jump into that.
Yeah. So quickly, just like really what happened is I ended up turning around and coming home shortly after leaving the house that night. I'll just quickly touch on that to wrap it up. I put my skates on for the first time, skated on the lake that I live on. This is the end of March now. And something told me that I needed to start a podcast out of nowhere. I had no inclination where it started, whatever, but starting the podcast, as he talked about, I get a lot of guys reaching out to me. And at first I was hanging, like the podcast kept me clean for the first, little while there. And now I've been able to build such a great support network, which is now the Puck Support Foundation and so many other things as well. But what happened is people started reaching out to me and being like, wow, you know what? Like, I'm dealing with similar things too. I thought I was the only pro hockey player, junior hockey player that had been to jail and done all this stuff. And in fact, there's a couple guys right now, like there's an NHL guy in jail right now. I won't use his name. There's several that are involved in the Puck Support Foundation that have dealt with addiction and ended up in jail because they don't have the right supports. They don't have these things. And whether they end up in jail or not, a lot of these guys are still struggling, with mental health and addiction and post-concussion syndrome. And so getting all these messages from people, I was like, this is like, something has to be done. Like there's too much going on. There's too many guys, and it's not just guys, it's men and women too, that have lost their battle with suicide and overdose and just all of it. And, so I started, focusing on the hockey community and doing my research at first of all the people that have died. And of course I knew the NHL ones. They're very, they were talked about back in 2011. But there's so many others that we just never heard about. And one of them was Matthew Lazinski. And he's a guy that I had never heard about. We were the same age. And he actually died of an overdose in 2017. And he played in the OHL, which is equivalent to the same league that I was playing out, but out here in Ontario for the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. And some things happened and whatever. And so he wasn't, they let him go and then he struggled for years. And then we ended up losing him in 2017. And this guy by the name of Matt Thompson ended up, sharing the story with me because I just spammed Facebook with my podcast. If he had a picture of a hockey player, I was like, hey, check out my podcast, right? So, and he listened to the first one. And he's like, man, your story is just like Matthew Lazinski's. And I'm like, well, who's that, right? So he told me. And since then, we've become like best friends. He come down here. I'm building in the middle of building a studio, the Matthew Lazinski Memorial Studio. And Matt Thompson and I become like best friends. He's actually just last weekend, he came down and grabbed me, and he got me all brand new equipment. He owns a senior men's team. I'm making a comeback into hockey after not playing for 8 years,
Nice,
which is cool. So anyways, through the Puck Sport Foundation, there's just so much going on. And if you don't mind, actually, just so you guys know what the Puck Sport Foundation is, this is our mission statement, and I can play it so you guys can hear it.
Even though every child who plays hockey dreams of one day making the NHL, winning a Stanley Cup and making millions of dollars, the fact is that very few of them do. Some end up with serious mental health and addiction issues, often long after the cheering stops and their safety net has vanished. The Puck Support Foundation is a nonprofit charity that is committed to providing relief for any player or coach, active or retired, who is struggling with these issues. We try to do that by providing a safe platform for hockey players to receive the help they need, confidentially and without fear of judgment. We intend to do that by working with mental health and addiction professionals to find and provide our brothers and sisters with the best prevention and treatment methods, and by providing a toll-free line that can be used by anyone, anytime, anywhere.
Let's get ready
to talk about it.
So that was actually, like I wrote that, but then it was kind of like, if you look at the original, it has been changed a little bit. It was re-edited by the senior writer of the Hockey News, Ken Campbell. So we have just a tremendous amount of support with the Puck Sport Foundation. And so, I'm a founder. There's a few others involved. There's several former professional hockey players at the NHL level and minor pro level involved. And then other guys such as yourself and doctors and things, and we're always we're looking to expand. And it's, I kind of came up with the motto that the Puck Sport Foundation is the team when the team is no longer there, right? So like, no unlimited roster spots, no tryouts, you don't got to fight for a contract every year, and it's just about bringing the community together. And it's not just players, it's coaches, it could be refs, it could be, now I'm expanding, it's hockey parents. Do you know how many hockey parents are struggling right now? They're stressed out financially because they can't keep up with the Joneses paying for their kids' hockey. That is a huge stress for some of these parents. They don't have outlets to talk about it. They don't have support. A lot of kids don't even get a chance to play hockey. I really want to knock on the government's doors and be like, why the hell are you guys not kicking millions of dollars into our sports systems? It's going to take a lot of pressure off of our healthcare systems in the long run. You start, you know what I mean? I'm talking to these parents out here, $10,000 to $15,000 just to play AAA hockey, minor hockey in Toronto or something like that. Just at the beginning of the year, 10 grand, 10, 15 grand. Like, who can afford that? How many great players are out there that are never going to get a chance to play? And who cares if they're the great players that never get a chance to play, make it to the NHL? I'm talking about the great life lessons, the friendships, the even though I went through what I went through, it wasn't because of hockey. You know what I mean? Like, if it wasn't for hockey, I would have been like completely screwed. I wouldn't have been able to pull myself out of it. Hockey was the vehicle that drove me right out of hell. The podcast and the hockey community. It was like, I got on the bus or the plane, the team plane, and I just flew out of hell. It was like, come on, you're on the team, let's go. Like,
Man.
and
this is all great things start with small ideas, and this thing is going to go beyond a small idea. The conversation that I was a part of today was basically to listen, to understand what it is that this foundation is attempting to do. And I think with the people listening on your podcast, on your Facebook, through this podcast, this Zoomcast, this YouTube channel, there's a lot of creative people out there. There's a lot of young therapists who have had or may not have had exposure to this, but they are now either for the first time or for the umpteenth time. And if nothing else, Brady, you're advising in a manner that you don't even know. You're affecting so many people in such a positive way that you don't even know about yet. And I think that's just by having this conversation, you're opening the eyes to what signs can we look for as practitioners? What can we do to get to know our Brady Leavolds on a daily basis so that when they're struggling, they know that they can come to us? We act as that facilitator in the best of lights, not all the time, but we act as that nonpartisan in the room that we hope we have enough trust with, and our athletes have enough faith in us to come to us with the things that they're struggling with. It's not always the case. It's not always accessible to everybody. So this foundation that you've created, acting as that bridge and that vehicle for people in all walks of life, is just, man, it's unbelievable. I think it's the start of something that's going to be fantastic. And again, for those of you listening, anybody joining membership from now, membership with a First Star for the CEUs through the CATA, anybody joining from today to the end of September, 10% of that membership is going to go to the Puck Support Foundation. We're going to drive this thing. We're going to start this conversation. I've already had some conversations in my circles and my connections and networks of people from the mental health side to our governing body as practitioners, and I'm hoping that any number of people here will reach out either through me or to you to offer their support in any way that we can. I think it's the beginning. It's having these conversations to get the creative space to see where we can help and how we can support. And you and I are going to have some dialogue here, I think, in the future, and I hope to offer some of the retreats that I'm offering for athletes and practitioners to everybody, to everybody for in the foundation, so that we can all get an idea of where this thing can go and how it's going to go. It's man, I get choked up even just listening and trying to express my gratitude to you, Brady, for being here, man, for being here, man, and telling your story and sharing your story, and pardon me.
Cheers, man.
Yeah.
I listen, I appreciate you having me on, and I hope that I was able to sort of share it in the right manner. My podcast, I don't do a whole lot of sharing my story. Actually, that's just this last episode I was able to, and then the next episode 50, is actually going to feature my dad. So the episode 50 is going to feature my dad. So it's going to be pretty wild. So I've had a guest. I did the first one. I didn't have a guest, and I've had a guest every single episode, and I've had some amazing guests. I've had like Doug Gilmore, Theron Fleury, Sheldon Kennedy was on. Like, I've had all these guys, like some bigger name. Darren McCarty, of course, was on too. But I've been very lucky with guests. But just this last one, I didn't have a guest, and I actually shared a lot of the story that I told. But a lot of the stuff I said tonight, I don't think I've shared. So that's the interesting thing when you hop on things like this, is you never really know what's going to come out, and it's been extremely therapeutic. So I thank you for allowing me to come on and talk. And again, it's all new. Every day I'm learning, and I think it's just my goal to hopefully just help one person. And I can deal with all the stuff that I've dealt with now. And I can move on and not use drugs to feel better. And I know that, and I didn't get into it, but I've been doing a lot of different things for my recovery. I don't do AA and NA anymore. I'm not like a rah, don't do anything type guy. So, if you do follow me, you will hear me talking about using cannabis and stuff, because I believe that education is key. The doctors were very quick to prescribe me oxys, and so many guys oxys and morphine and Percocets and all of this stuff, Vicodin. And if you follow my podcast, you'll hear different stories. And there's been one, the mom was on there, her son died when he was away playing junior hockey. Wasn't a drug addict, but he got prescribed Vicodin, and then, shortly thereafter they took the pills. So what do? You turn to heroin. It's the same thing. And he ended up dying of an overdose while he was away in the States playing hockey. And it's just tragic. So I think it's all about education. You'll never hear me promoting, smoking. I don't say smoke weed or no. It's always, anything is 90 plus. It's about getting educated, because this is the way that I pose it. I have children. My girlfriend also has kids, and they call me dad. They're my kids. And my girlfriend's like, I'm about to be a dad again too. So I have lots on the go. But I would be, as a parent now, and as somebody that's gone through that, if a kid breaks his arm at 13 years old, 14 years old, and the doctor wants to give him morphine or something, like, seriously question that and be like, if a kid needs something, is there something else that we can give them? I'm not telling you what to give your kid. But I'm saying, do some research, and there may be a healthy alternative, such as like a THC gummy, and other alternatives that are not addictive and not, because you never know. Like, you could give a kid a pill at 13, 14, and that's it. Like that, they could, they might not use it every day until then, but they just remember that feeling, and all of a sudden they're seeking that stuff out. So I think, just having that conversation with the kids, and that's a big thing about the Puck Sport Foundation, is the education to the kids, and be like, you know what, like, if you're going to play hockey or sports, or even if you don't play sports, and say you're a man and you're working in construction, you might get hurt, and you might, have to play through or work through things, and things might be suggested for you to take. Well, guess what? If you take these things, there's some serious consequences. And so I think it's just all about education. I'll let you wrap it up. I appreciate you having me on. I truly appreciate it, man. And if you guys want to, though, you can check out pucksupport.com, and also hockey2heroin.com, like hockey, the number 2 heroin.com. And then, of course, anywhere on social media, Instagram, Facebook. And if anybody wants to get involved in the Puck Sport Foundation, of course, we're building our board of directors, and not everybody needs to be on the board of directors, but we need a lot of people involved, a lot of people all over, everywhere involved, so that doesn't matter where people are struggling, we have a team of people. So please reach out to us, to me. We're always looking for people. And if you feel like you have nothing to offer, I guarantee you have something to offer. And also check out the Gratitude Crusade. It's a social media challenge that I've kind of launched, all about being grateful, because every single day I wake up and I shouldn't be alive with the amount of times I've overdosed and all the tragedies. So anyways, I'll let you get to it. But yeah, if you hashtag PSF Gratitude Crusader on Facebook, at Gratitude Crusade, Instagram, at Gratitude Crusade, give you an idea of what it is. And I'm just so appreciative that you guys all listened to me. And I hope that you heard something that was valuable to you or to somebody that you know. And if you enjoyed it, please, I encourage you to share my podcast, or at least, the very least, the Puck Sport Foundation, because it does need a lot of attention. There's a lot of people struggling. The podcast is great, but I would drop all that personal stuff, all my personal stuff. I don't do it for myself. I would throw away that podcast in a heartbeat to see the Puck Sport Foundation go in the right direction right now. I wouldn't even think twice about it. So please, thank you guys. And thank you so much for listening.
Hey, no problem. Really appreciate you taking the time and sharing this. And there's a whole bunch of thank yous and things coming in here. And the first one came in. Thank you for sharing your story and taking a step towards making an impact in the sport communities. We need more people like you in this world. And we're so glad that you're still here, man. And you can share this and really help, as many people as you're going to. I have no doubt that this is going to help. A few questions coming in, but I think, let me just backtrack for a minute. And that education piece is massive. That's a big part of what I'm doing now from a therapy side and a training side, and making sure that we understand the context, and understanding how far reaching those conversations can be. So as therapists, as people who have access to physicians and medication that is being either it's on the counter or it's being doled out on a regular basis, really tracking those things and keeping an eye on those counts and checking in with our athletes to ensure that these things are not going tipping the scales or have the potential to tip the scales. So this is another area, pharmaceuticals and all these things that we can do a better job of educating ourselves on, and understanding where the synthetic component comes in, how these things can translate onto street drugs and more access to the street drugs. Pardon me, one of my dogs is now barking because he must have heard yours earlier or something. But anyway, so these are the things where I think we can do a better job in terms of understanding how we can have an impact and where we can have an impact. A whole bunch of thank yous. Thank you for speaking. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for sharing your stories with us. Maybe just, Brady, do you have a couple of minutes? Just a couple questions came in. And
Absolutely. I have nothing but time for people.
Yeah, no, this is a big topic, and I didn't mean to rush through your story. I just really wanted to get to the foundational side, and I want people to understand where this is coming from, because, again, man, this is massive. This is massive, and it reaches a lot of people on a lot of different levels. So, as an athletic therapist, are there signs that we could maybe pick up on in cases like yours to recognize that there may be a problem? I think this is another area of education. You having the experience, knowing the culture and when things get talked about and what doesn't get talked about, and those kind of things, where you could educate us, you know what I mean? And maybe not formally tonight, but I would be more than happy to connect you with therapists in an educational setting to inform them of the realities of this. But are there a couple things that we could really start to recognize, behavioral changes or other, that might help us on that end of things?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's something that I've talked about with a few of my buddies and different people. Is I think right from the minor hockey league, minor hockey level, and this translate into what you're talking about with the therapists at the professional and junior levels too, is just having those conversations and not just assuming everybody is doing okay. Like, how you doing? Okay, yeah, I'm good. Like, are they really good? Like, I think, in those settings, we get to know each other pretty well. As a player, we developed pretty strong relationships with the trainers. I know that I did, and I know that the trainers were very well respected everywhere that I played, especially around Christmas time at the professional level. They all get a nice bonus from everybody. But it's, I think that as far as the therapist goes, though, it's almost a tireless, thankless job that sort of gets taken for granted in that people don't realize how much goes into that. And I don't think the players realize how much goes into it. And I sure didn't, even though you see it and whatever. But now as I think it's just as I'm older, you start to realize, that, these athletic therapists, this is their life. This is what drives them. This is their passion. They enjoy it, and they want to get better, and they're putting their life into it. And like a lot of them, not all of them, but the majority are. And there's most of the therapists are unbelievable. Like, there's a certain, I think, personality trait that goes with it, or I'm not sure, but I just think that having the conversation, like, what your players are like, and we should be having these conversations, get educated on the signs of what it looks like, drug use, because in the professional sports level, pain pills are a huge thing, but so is cocaine and alcohol and all of that. And it's certainly a scary topic to bring up in the dressing room. Like, I know I never wanted no trainer to know what I was doing, or a coach. And so that was another thing with the Puck Sport Foundation. Was a big thing for me. It was like, we have nothing to do with your team, period. Unless, of course, you're like a minor and you tell us you're going to commit suicide. Well, then our hands would be tied, I think. Is there some banging?
Sounds like a drum set. I don't know. Let me check where that's coming from.
You know what it is? It's someone shooting. It's Labor Day, and I live on a lake.
Fireworks. Fireworks.
Yeah.
Maybe Canadian. Canadian interruption. No problem, eh?
Where are you guys all located? Where is everyone?
Yeah. Majority of everybody on here is, I think, in Ontario, and then we have out east, out on the East Coast, and then majority are in Ontario, and then out in New Brunswick.
But yeah, I think just striking up those conversations. But I think, like I said, your jobs you're thankless sometimes, and a lot goes into it, and so much while the players are there, and also even more so when they're not, right? And I think if you can find, an extra time just to, pull players aside, while other players aren't around, I think that's probably your best bet, is to build that relationship, is to get them on the one-on-one, would be my advice.
Yeah, it's great advice, man. I try to advise, younger therapists and therapists at all costs to know more than position and jersey number from a number of experiences that I've had, but how they shake hands on a good day, how they shake hands on maybe not in COVID, but how they walk into a room, how they walk out of a room, how they take certain things and get to know your athletes on a deeper level. This is certainly a whole nother level in terms of your advice with that. And it's not easy, but also building networks. And I think we can do, again, as a profession, we can do a better job maybe navigating resources to get educated in these specific areas. We talk a little bit about some pharmaceuticals, but not a lot of this. And it's maybe one page in one of these freaking 300-page textbooks, like where they just go over, recreational drugs. Well, it's a lot more than recreational when it gets to the level of your story and many others that are experiencing that. So there's a lot of good education out there as well on the Narcan and the fentanyl and all these kinds of things that are out there as educational programs that I know the city of Toronto has put on. We did them at the university that I was working at before, and got familiar with how to utilize those and how to access those and some signs and symptoms of addiction. So it's a lot, but it's a lot of important stuff. And I think it starts with conversations like these. And I really want to thank you, Brady, because it's important work, and your story is one that's going to change a lot of people's lives. And I hope it begins here for us in the athletic therapy world and beyond, in the sports performance world, where we can start having these conversations and allow these conversations to surface and be the driving factor in things like, if not the Puck Support Foundation. So again, I really appreciate this. This is session 37 of First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy roundtable brought to you by Mobility Tape. Brady is at Puck Support, at Hockey2 Heroin, the number 2. The Gratitude Crusade is another portion of things that Brady touched on briefly. I'd advise going to check that out on social media. It's a little challenge, but a challenge that is worthwhile, taking the time to make a video stating 3 things that you're grateful for in the day. And if you don't, you pass it on. If you're not able to do it, then you pay some money into the Puck Support Foundation. And so either way, it's a win-win. Do the videos, be grateful, help this thing out. And one more time, from now until the end of September, memberships, 10% of memberships paid will go to the Puck Support Foundation. Sorry for the barking. Let's call this a night. It's been a good one, Brady. Let's be in touch, man, regularly over the next little while. I'll meet with one of your guys this week too, and it'll be a good kickstart. So thank you everybody so much for being on here tonight. Brady, again, man, you reach me on a level that is going to affect a lot of change over here too. So appreciate it, man. Best to you. Good night. Good night, everybody else. First Star Let's Chat, session 37.
Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com, CONSULT@firststartherapy.com, on Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.